Tonight, Premier Doug Ford firing back after the Auditor General tears into Ontario's pandemic response.
Don't start pretending you're a doctor or a health professional, because I can tell you, you aren't.
Slow to respond and disorganized. That's a few of the findings in the Attorney General's scathing new report, and it's not sitting well with the Premier. Plus,
we have a very big family, and getting together around the holidays has always been so magical.
But this year will have to be different. The rules the province wants everyone to be following this holiday season. And all is not lost. What the city is doing to make sure residents can get outside and keep active this winter. Good evening, I'm Kelda Yoon. We begin in Mississauga tonight, where 3 men are in hospital after a stabbing at a plaza. Police were called to the plaza in the area of Huron, Ontario and Dundas Streets just before 9 o'clock. 2 men were taken to hospital with life-threatening injuries. They have since been upgraded to non-life-threatening. One other man was also taken to a local hospital. He's expected to survive. Peel police say multiple suspects fled on foot. They're canvassing the area and appealing for any witnesses to come forward. Well, decision-making delays and confusion slow down Ontario's response to the COVID-19 pandemic. That's according to a new report by the province's Auditor General. The findings also call out the Ford government for poor emergency preparedness and a disorganized public health system. Our Queen's Park reporter Mike Crawley has this story.
The Auditor General says Ontario moved more slowly than other provinces to respond to the pandemic earlier this year. And she found as recently as last month, testing backlogs slowed down efforts to contain the second wave of COVID-19.
In a time of crisis, the systems that people needed weren't in place. And we're showing what the consequences of that are.
The report says the government's initial response to COVID-19 was riddled with delays and conflicts and confusion in decision-making. It also reveals the government paid a consulting firm $1.6 million to set up Ontario's COVID command tables. The auditor calls this advisory structure overly cumbersome, with all the top roles filled by senior bureaucrats and political staff.
This structure should have been dominated by public health experts, but was not.
The auditor says the Chief Medical Officer of Health, Dr. David Williams, has not led Ontario's response to the pandemic, and she criticizes Williams for failing to use his full powers to issue health directives quickly and independently.
My hope on this report is people look at it and focus on what needs to be done to go forward. Not to use it as a blame tool, not to be defensive against what's in this report.
Defensive doesn't even begin to describe the government's reaction.
I have some serious problems with this report. This does nothing but undermine our entire health team, and I can't stand for this, and I'll tell you, I won't stand for this.
Today's Auditor General's report is a disappointment and, in many respects, a mischaracterization of the province's pandemic response.
The Premier went so far as attacking the auditor directly.
Don't start pretending you're a doctor or a health professional, because I can tell you, you aren't. Stick with the numbers.
The auditor's mandate is actually more than just counting taxpayer pennies. She's also supposed to figure out whether government programs are effective. In this case, effective at slowing the spread of COVID-19. Mike Crawley, CBC News, Toronto.
Christmas is exactly 1 month away, and today the province released recommendations for how to safely enjoy the season. But one thing is clear, for many of us, the holidays are going to look a lot different this year. Lorena Redekop has the details.
Nadia Ali is crazy for Christmas. She turns on the music in September. A month later, the tree goes up.
I don't even observe at Halloween because I feel like it gets in the way of Christmas celebrations.
This year, though, the activities with friends and big extended family gatherings are out, replaced with low-key activities with her boyfriend and their dog.
Common sense would indicate that if we're in a lockdown until December 20th or 21st, 3 days later for Christmas to open everything up again for everyone to enjoy the holidays didn't really seem realistic to me in the first place. So I've been mentally preparing myself for the fact that we were going to be staying at home.
Well, good afternoon.
Today, the advice from the province made it official.
The safest way for any of us to enjoy the holidays, no matter where we live in the province, is to celebrate with our own households.
For people who live alone, they can join one other household.
Please don't have big holiday parties, don't have large gatherings. Most importantly, follow the guidelines for your region.
It's transparent, it's out there, it follows the science.
This doctor can see the lockdowns for Toronto and Peel staying in place, something the chief medical officer has already hinted is likely. This on a day when 159 people are in hospital with COVID-19.
Hospitals are typically particularly full and facing staff shortages over the holidays too. It's not a great time to just add some pressure to the system immediately.
There is one area he feels the government could loosen up on first if numbers improve.
We understand we shouldn't have indoor gatherings. Perhaps for Christmas, you guys can meet outdoors, you can take a walk, you can have a hike, you can go tobogganing together, as long as you're distancing and wearing a mask.
Oh, hold on.
Nadia Ali has a new COVID Christmas decoration this year and is planning for more baking and board games.
So if I can do it, I guarantee everybody else should be able to get through it at some capacity. And I really implore everyone to kind of just embrace the situation that we're in and try to make the most of it.
Lorenda Redicop, CBC News, Toronto.
Mississauga Mayor Bonnie Crombie says she will present a motion to council tomorrow to stop big box stores from selling non-essential items during the lockdown. It's an effort to both stop the spread of the virus and level the playing field.
I know that many of our small retailers are barely hanging on. They've been asked to close their in-person shopping at the most critical time of year for their bottom line. And it is simply unfair that big box stores can continue to sell non-essential items to people in their stores, while small retailers cannot.
Crombie is urging residents to buy Mississauga made when Christmas shopping. Many local businesses are offering online shopping and delivery or curbside pickup. More protesters were at an Etobicoke restaurant today fighting against the city's lockdown restrictions. Adamson Barbecue opened for the second straight day. As Greg Ross reports, it has become the focal point for people opposed to these new measures.
They were louder and angrier.
We lost jobs, we have children to feed.
Most not wearing masks, but all seemingly there to support this man, Adam Skelly, who for the second straight day opened the doors to his restaurant, Adamson Barbecue, in defiance of both provincial and city rules.
Here to keep the media off the properties, private properties.
While he had little to say to the media, with his lawyer by his side, he did plenty of talking to police and bylaw officers inside his restaurant this morning, shortly after opening up for business.
It was a very cordial discussion with both the owner as well as his legal team. At the end of the day, they all decided that he and the staff would leave and close down.
Police tell us that so far in 2 days, a total of 9 charges have been laid, 5 against Skelly and 4 more against the corporation that owns Adamson Barbecue. According to police, Skelly is the director of that corporation. The charges include hosting a large gathering, not having a business license, and allowing indoor dining.
For dining, I believe there is a maximum $10,000 fine for the individual, as well as a $100,000 fine for the corporation. Those fines also change when we charge them for the illegal gathering.
This is a person who has gone out and deliberately flouted the law.
Today, the mayor vowed to take further action if Skelly tries to open his doors again tomorrow.
People who choose to flout the law, in my book, should have the book thrown at them, and should have every consequence that we can possibly muster.
While we're not entirely sure if Skelly will try to open up again tomorrow, there were others in the crowd who claimed to be small business owners who have been forced to close, and they claimed that they were going to be opening their businesses again tomorrow, despite COVID-19 regulations. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
With fitness classes canceled and gyms closed, the city is taking some extra steps this year to make sure residents can get outside and keep active. It's called the Winter Parks Plan. Nick Beauvert has the details.
When her local YMCA shut down for the first time back in March, Jillian Mason started up a new walking group on her local trail in Scarborough.
It's meant that we've been outside, we've been getting our exercise, keeping our exercise up. We walk briskly, but also we are able to socialize with actual other human beings, not on Zoom.
This week, the trio is still at it, but they're moving a little more carefully.
Just the other day, I nearly took a spill, 3 steps in.
Like many of Toronto's multi-use trails, this one isn't normally maintained in the winter, but with gyms shut down once again, people say the city should rethink that approach. At Christie Pitts, an outdoor Tai Chi class echoed those calls.
With gyms closing, and who knows when they'll open up, we want our outdoor spaces to be more accessible.
Mayor John Tory says the city is on it.
I believe that with diligence on behalf of staff and members of the public, we can continue to offer safe recreation opportunities throughout the winter.
This afternoon, Tory announced the city's new winter parks plan shaped by the pandemic. The changes include snow clearing on an extra 60 kilometers of paved trails, 60 parks with enhanced winter maintenance, and 143 public washrooms, double what the city normally keeps open. Toronto will also open its ice rinks this weekend with limited capacity. But it's not yet clear if the additional snow clearing will include the Meadowway.
Scarborough is sort of known to be underserviced in lots of different areas, and so this is a sort of a small investment for, a large part of the population.
The city says it is considering maintaining the trail this winter and expects a decision within a few weeks. Nick Boisvert, CBC News, Toronto.
A lot of the breast cancer movement so far has really been focused on breasts and reconstruction.
She was diagnosed with breast cancer at 25, now in remission. Toronto lawyer Kimiko Tobimatsu has released a graphic memoir detailing her cancer journey as a queer mixed-race woman. My interview with her coming up. Plus,
well, if you're tired of the wet conditions, I can tell you when that's going to be tapering off. I'm meteorologist Colette Kennedy. I've got that in the forecast for you, plus mild temperatures, all coming up after the break.
The weather is brought to you by Trane, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. We test, so it runs. It's hard to stop a train.
It's a wet one out there tonight and very foggy. Normally we would be able to see the CN Tower. Downpours through the evening into the night tonight. Let's go to our meteorologist, Colette Kennedy now. Colette, definitely very wet out there and foggy conditions as well tonight.
Thanks, Kelda. Yes, we kind of have these soggy conditions carrying on, and not just the wet weather, but some areas where the fog is a little bit dense too. It's pretty localized, but something to keep in mind. We're going to kind of keep these wet conditions through the overnight into a portion of the day tomorrow, and then be drying out. That's going to be the trend into Thursday, and also the trend with our temperatures remaining on the mild side. I mean, it's warmer now than it was earlier this afternoon, and that temperature will come up another degree or so towards morning, and then keep going up into the afternoon hours on Thursday. So we're definitely going to be above seasonal. And looking at the next system, once we get clear of this one, it doesn't come in till Monday. So the timing of that means that you'll have the weekend to maybe, today wasn't the best day for it, right? So to maybe get outside and do a hike or do something that gives you that opportunity, socially distanced, of course, but to get some fresh air. So let me just show you how the rest of this is going to play out as it moves through. We had that freezing rain well off towards the nation's capital through that area, but we've been into this milder sector. So it's been the rain showers. At times a little bit heavier. We get a break into the overnight hours. And then around 4 a.m. another band comes through. This kind of lingers into the early morning. So for the morning commute, and then we'll see that really peeling away. And as it does, still some isolated showers. Certainly that potential's there with the instability behind here, a lot of cloud cover. I think we'll see the clouds eroding a little bit into the afternoon. So late afternoon, we may begin to see some sunny breaks, which would be welcome. And then looking ahead towards Friday, yes, there's still some cloud cover in there. But again, I think we'll see more sunshine as Friday wears on as well, mixing with the cloud cover. So temperatures remaining mild, it's going to make that a pretty pleasant day as well. Overnight in southwestern Ontario, look at these numbers, 9 degrees. That's warmer than your average daytime high. And tomorrow certainly will be about double it. Take a look at the average high, so up to 12 degrees in Windsor. But again, I think we'll see the clouds breaking a little bit. I've got the full cloud icon in there. We'll get some sunny breaks. Now, overnight into the Golden Horseshoe, yes, the temperature's coming up another degree or so. And then by tomorrow afternoon, look at this, we'll see some double digits certainly around the Golden Horseshoe, and still some spotty showers, very, very isolated, but just know they'll be there. That risk is there, so maybe don't put the umbrella away, depending how long your walk might be and how much you want to chance it. Okay, then let's look ahead into Friday. Look at the overnight lows. Stays mild, so Friday is going to be a nice day, especially if we can get more sun coming through here. And then into Saturday and Sunday, we are still looking at the temperatures above seasonal, so that air mass stays on the warm side. For this time of year, I'll certainly call it warm. But that next system comes in at the beginning of next week, and this is going to be important. I believe it's going to start as rain. I know this is several days away, so we'll keep tweaking this. But as the temperature falls off Monday night, that's when we'll likely get into some wet snow. So that'll be the next one to be watching for you, Kelda.
All right, another system to watch out for. Thanks so much, Colette. Well, she's a Toronto human rights lawyer and now the author of a new graphic memoir about her experience of getting diagnosed with breast cancer at the age of 25. As a queer mixed-race woman, Kimiko Tobimatsu quickly noticed gaps in the medical care system when it comes to handling reproductive health issues. Now, I spoke to her about her experience detailed in her book, Kimiko Does Cancer.
It was just happenstance. I never, imagined writing anything previously, but I was just having all these unusual experiences with support groups and with the cancer community, and just started kind of writing it down, talking to friends, and at the same time trying to explore for myself, who else is writing about this, and trying to find people to relate to, and not finding a whole lot, specifically from the queer perspective, other women of color. And so that's when I realized, hey, maybe we need more stories out there.
She thought a graphic memoir would be a compelling way to tell her personal story. So she went about writing Kimiko Does Cancer with illustrations by Keet Haniza.
She's also queer, Asian. She has her own experience. Her father had cancer, and so she got the story from a really personal level.
When you were going through this journey and with all the treatment and everything, what about it stuck out to you that bothered you?
Reproductive cancers in particular are so connected to gender identity, gender expression, because it relates to fertility, it relates to femininity, and a lot of the breast cancer movement so far has really been focused on breasts and reconstruction and, what type of bras to wear so you can wear a prosthetic and all the rest. And it's very pink. So all of that just felt very alienating. And it was very, cis heteronormative focused to say, okay, what will a woman, what will her relationship be with her husband, if she's had a mastectomy? And, those conversations I just couldn't connect to.
Her book also confronts some tough realities.
The reality is that for many people, they will continue to experience after effects, and we don't need to have this shiny image. And I think it does harm to just paint a rosy picture of people just moving on and it's all done, when in reality people might have ongoing chronic illnesses or disabilities or side effects. I am in induced menopause, so that means, fun stuff like hot flashes, insomnia, but the cancer itself is gone.
Tell me about the response that you've gotten so far.
There's been lots of people who themselves have had cancer, whether breast cancer or something else. And then there's also people, who are going through menopause. So, older women or people who are in perimenopause or got premature menopause, and they can also relate. And then queer people in general saying, it's so great to see somebody going through, a health issue that has experiences like I have. So, for both Keith and me, it's been so heartwarming and very satisfying to say, okay, it was worth it. It was a lot of work, but, to get to see the kind of story that I would have loved to see, when I was going through this.
Toby Matsu is now in remission. Her book, Kimiko Does Cancer, can be found at local bookstores. After the break, a citywide art exhibit is back, paying tribute to frontline workers crafted by the very people they care for. We'll tell you more about the Brain Project coming up.
CBC Toronto's Sounds of the Season is different this year.
You gave generously last year to our annual charity drive for the Daily Bread Food Bank in support of local food banks.
The need is greater than ever this year.
Normally at this time of the year, we would invite you down to the CBC Broadcasting Centre.
And although public health guidelines due to COVID-19 mean that's not going to be possible this year,
CBC Toronto is still here for you throughout the month on television and on radio and online.
We'll have special programming featuring musical artists, CBC personalities, and other special guests.
We want to share stories about how people across the GTA continue to support each other at a time of so much food insecurity.
Happy holidays and stay safe.
The citywide art exhibit Yogenfru's Brain Project is back, this year paying tribute to frontline workers at Baycrest through art created by the dementia patients there. The public initiative aims to raise awareness about brain health and funding for Alzheimer's and dementia research. Dahlia Ashry has more.
Behind these doors amidst the pandemic is where Mirav Gilboa, a creative arts worker, spends most of her days.
It's been like a roller coaster.
But something beautiful is being born amongst the chaos. Art, a saving grace for the patients and residents at Baycrest who Gilboa works with.
Take those pieces of art that people are making either in their rooms or in a small group, and we put it together in a display. And that brings, I think, so much feeling of accomplishment and a feeling of being still part of something bigger than just sitting in their homes.
In order to follow COVID restrictions, frontline workers like Gilboa had to adjust.
It's working in small groups or one-to-one, so it's a huge change.
Nicole Yankovic, manager of the Department of Culture and Arts at Baycrest, explains the Brain Project.
Paint butterflies, which were then collaboratively used to and superimposed on the brain. And it represents with photographs of clients at work in program with our staff on the floors during COVID-19.
But she says the project is much more than just painting butterflies and creating murals like this.
A need to continue with connectedness and social stimulation and ensure that our residents are well looked after and connected during a time where we have to be disconnected.
A piece of artwork that can be appreciated and express appreciation.
How does it really feel beyond this locked door or in a small art group in the unit? So it's a good feeling of being seen.
Dahlia Ashry, CBC News, Toronto.
That's our show for you tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you back here tomorrow night at 11. Good night.